Assalamu alaikum guys. I want to share an ayah of the Quran with you today, which is found in Surah Nahl, the 16th chapter of the Quran, verse 125. And this particular ayah is significant for everyone that's involved in the da'wah. And everyone should, to whatever degree, be thinking about how they can be involved in the da'wah. But those that are involved, those that want to be involved, must reflect upon this ayah, and think about this and ponder over it and return to it over and over again. Now here Allah says, and I'm going to read you the translation. Allah says, invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and fair preaching, and argue with them in a way that is better. Truly, your Lord knows best who has gone astray from his path, and he is the best knower of those who are guided. Now, a few things I want to share with you is that number one, Allah is encouraging us, telling us, commanding us to call to his way. Invite people to this truth, inform people of Islam, inform people of the fact that they were created, that they have a creator, and that they were created for a purpose, and that they will return to their creator. This is something we need to tell people. However, in the very same ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us some principles. He's getting us to consider some things that we need to keep in mind when involved in the da'wah. The da'wah is not just about okay, I have some knowledge now, I understand some things that I need to share. People need to know this, and you just go and you do it in the way you think is best. No. The da'wah is as much about how you engage with people, how you consider the situation, as it is about what you're saying. I've mentioned this many times before. You can say something in two different ways, and it will have a completely different impact on the different people. You can tell someone you love them and you can hug them and say that, or you can tell someone you love them and slap them across the face. You're going to have a different reaction. That information you're delivering is going to be perceived in a totally different way in both those scenarios. So we need to remember that when you're giving da'wah, when you're calling to the way of Allah, you are representing the deen of Allah. You are representing the truth that God has sent down to us, to human beings. You are essentially a representative. And I think about it this way. When you say you work for one of those big companies, say you work for Apple, and you're that front-facing representative for the company. What expectations would they have of you? How would you have to carry yourself? How would you have to dress? How would you have to ensure that your manners are in place? How would you have to make sure that you are very careful with everything you say in the meetings that you have, so that you don't misrepresent the company, you don't bring a bad name to the company? How would you consider all of these things? And the repercussions. If you were to not consider these things and just do it as you wish and appear as you want and talk as you want and whatever, you'll be fired very, very soon. They wouldn't give you a second chance. Now, these are worldly companies, endeavors, and we consider these things so much. But what about when it comes to the deen of Allah? What about when it comes to representing Islam? Not only representing Islam, carrying Islam to other human beings. How should our mannerisms be? How should we carry ourselves? How vigilant should we be? How conscious should we be? How much time should we spend in sitting and thinking about what we're going to say and how we're going to say it and in which situation we're going to say it? This requires wisdom. And this is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. That invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom. That's the first thing Allah mentions after telling us that we have to invite people to his way. Now, we're not going to be employing wisdom when we're just rushing into things. And a lot of times in the da'wah, we just rush into things. We don't think about what we're doing. We don't consider things. We don't consider the implications of our actions. To a degree, we should be like consequentialists when it comes to the da'wah. What are the consequences of my future actions? So what I'm about to do, which I'm considering to be an act of da'wah, what are the consequences? What are the potential consequences? Allah knows the future. But at the same time, Allah's given us an aql and intellect to be able to sort of work out possible outcomes, potential outcomes. Not that there will be, but we can do this. And this is how we work and function as human beings. We look at the possible risks and outcomes of anything we're about to do, and then we do the thing. But why not in the da'wah as well? Why don't we sit there and really think about, okay, I'm going to do this particular action which I consider as da'wah. And I may be putting you on social media, and I may be putting you online, I may be putting you on YouTube, whatever the case is. What are going to be the implications of this for me as an individual? But more so, what are the implications on the appearance of Islam because of this action? How are my actions going to reflect upon what people think about Islam? What are the more larger implications for the Muslim community? These are the things we need to consider, and we should really sit down, maybe with a pen and paper, and really note these things down and think these things through. Because a lot of things we're seeing online, or a lot of things we see in the Dawah these days are really not conducive for the Dawah. And then it makes you wonder as to why we do some of these things. So wisdom is key, and that requires us to sit down and to use our intellects to reflect and to think about possible outcomes, and what my actions may result in. And then Allah says, with wisdom and fair preaching, good mannerisms, measured speech, not aggressive, not derogatory, not speaking down to people, not abusing people, not concerned about just winning the debate or the argument, none of this. Remember, if we are giving da'wah for the sake of Allah, to invite people to the way of Allah, seeking His pleasure and His reward, and we're trying to be sincere when we're doing this, then again, we have to consider this. We have to think about, okay, what I'm about to say, I have to make sure that I say in the most beautiful way possible, in a way that wins people's hearts and minds, considering the situation and everything, applying wisdom. And that I don't come across in an aggressive way, in a way where I sort of really speak down to people, where I just upset people, where I may just win the debate, but I'm not going to win anyone's hearts. I'm not going to be bringing them any closer to Islam. So we have to again consider these things. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and argue with them in a way that is better. Debate, okay, there is a place for debate. There is a place for argumentation. And it's interesting to note that Allah mentions this as the third thing. It's near the end of the ayah. It's not one of the first things Allah mentions. Allah mentions wisdom first, fair preaching first, and then debate. If it comes to a debate, although it may not be recommended and may not be necessary in the da'wah, whenever it comes to a situation where you need to debate, you may be in an argument, you may be in a situation, again, do that in the best way possible. And again, when you do debate, when you do have an argument with someone, or you are sharing arguments with someone, a debate could be conducted in a very civil, respectful, compassionate way. But again, it will all boil down to what your inner intention is. Why are you debating? If you are debating just for the sake of winning the debate and coming across like the big man, well then your characteristics and the way you conduct yourself and the way you engage with that person is going to be different from when you are in a debate with someone. If it gets to that, if you're in a debate with someone and you are sincerely in that debate just to try to help that person out, so they discover and realize the truth, you're going to carry yourself in a very different way, even though you're going to be debating. So again, now this is going to boil down to your inner intention. Why are you doing this? What's the objective? And you have to really, again, grapple with that and get to the bottom of that. And I know this is going to take effort, guys, and I know this is difficult and it takes a lot of energy to sit there and think these things through, but we have to, because we're responsible. We have to be responsible. This is not a joke. Islam is not a joke. The da'wah is not a joke. It was the prophets of Allah that were sanctioned to give da'wah, to call people, and these were special people chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, signifying to us, although we have to do the same thing, that it takes a certain level of thinking, consideration, good characteristics and manners, emotional intelligence. It's not an easy thing. It's not just a case of I have knowledge now, I understand Tawheed, I understand Allah is one, let me go share this with people, khalas, as I want to, how I want to, regardless of the consequences, and not considering or even thinking through how I should be acting and behaving and carrying myself. So we have to really go back to the drawing board. And this is advice for brothers in the da'wah, brothers and sisters looking to get involved in the da'wah, is number one, realize it's not a joke. It's something very serious. Number two, really work on your intention. Why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for? Number three, sit down and really consider the consequences of what this potential action you're about to do. What could be the consequences of this action? Really think these things through. And when you do that exercise, you realize that some things you may have been excited to do, but when you really think through what may result from this, you may not do it. And then sometimes you may not want to do something in the da'wah, but when you really think through the positive consequences of the action, then you may actually want to do it. But it all boils down to, again, fundamentally your sincerity and why you want to do this. And you know what? Some of you may watch this and you may think, you may have this thought that, I've been in the da'wah for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, however long, I don't need to think about these things. I have these things down. These are for basics. These are for beginners. And if we're in that position right now, if we're even thinking like this, that's a problem in and of itself. That's a big issue. No one is free of fallibility, no matter how experienced you are in the da'wah. And if you're at that place where you think you know this all and it's fine, you just want to get on with it, and this, what I'm saying right now is not relevant, that is a warning sign that, we're in trouble. And we have to really think about these things. And this is a reminder to myself first and foremost, just because I may be speaking about these things right now, it doesn't mean that I have these things down. It's a struggle. It will always be a struggle, but the da'wah is a struggle. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be this luxurious job that you do and you're chosen and all of this type of stuff. No, it's a struggle. And we need to realize this, and we need to really humble ourselves and go back to the basics, because we're seeing some of the negative consequences of not thinking things through in the da'wah. We're seeing it, it's all around us, and it's going to get worse unless we fix up. So it's a reminder to myself first and foremost, and to all of the brothers and sisters that may be involved in the da'wah that watch this. May Allah make it easy for you, and we're humans, we live and learn. We make mistakes, but the best thing we can do is to get up, to realize the mistakes, to think things through, fix ourselves, and then come back and do things properly. And the worst thing we could do is just carry on in our delusions. So I leave you guys with this. May Allah bless you all, and I'll speak to you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum.